Hi guys, and welcome to another Doctor Who reaction review video. It might sound a bit echoey today. Have been recently moving all my stuff in to my new university room, which is the room you see behind me. So that's hence the no Doctor Who posters. They will be going up there when I move them over. By the way, that's just temporary. They're getting moved to that wall, but that's beside the point. So I'm going to talk about Listen, which is episode 4, written by Stephen Moffat and directed by Douglas McKinnon, who is a veteran Doctor Who director who directed Cold War and did a bang-up job, because that was quite... He made it look quite dark and quite scary, which was, I think, what the intention of that episode was. And I think he's done the same with Listen, in terms of there's some generally scary moments in it, things that would be quite frightening to a younger thing. Yeah, it made me jump a few times. Um, I watched it after I'd finished work on Saturday night. It was about 3 in the morning. I had a cup of coffee and I was watching it, and I didn't want to go to bed after it. So but yeah, I thought it was, and I'm 21, so it's if it's going to scare a 21-year-old, it's definitely going to scare kids. I liked I liked the concept at the start, and that's what the overall thing of the episode was supposed to be. And because it wasn't, I felt that it lost all of its potential. It had the potential to be one of the best Stephen Moffat episodes in a long time, because Stephen Moffat episodes have not been scary since Russell T Davies was in charge of the show. He used to write episodes that were just winner every week, every season. Um, and now, I thought Listen was going to be the best of the series, and it hasn't been. I thought Into the Dalek was better. Not against Stephen's writing. I just think there's things that let it down massively. You play with an idea of a concept of things being in the room when you're talking to yourself, and that opening sequence was amazing, where the Doctor's in the TARDIS talking to himself, and the chalk moves from the book to the floor, and then Listen appears written on the chalkboard, and he's talking about invisible camouflages and things, which I didn't get, by the way, because he said there's no such thing as a perfect camouflage, but then what are the silence? This was a debate that I was having with some of my friends on Facebook, talking about the invisible camouflage, because I'm pretty sure that's what the silence are, and the Weeping Angels have got a defense mechanism similar to the silence as well. So that's contradicting itself. This is what this episode was like. There's a lot of contradictions and there's a lot of reused material. I could name about 4 different episodes that have inspired Listen. Midnight, with the banging on the door right at the end of the episode. Blink, because when I was doing my research on the series, it was like it was being described as Blink 2.0, the episode. And just there's so many different things that have influenced the episode. Day of the Doctor, I didn't mind the Clara going to Gallifrey thing, but that again just contradicts itself because it's in a pocket universe. So it's either that's the case, or it's somewhere else where the Doctor grew up. But yeah, I didn't mind that. I actually quite liked that scene. That given that Clara was talking to the Doctor, she said the same speech that she said that the Doctor said to Rupert at the start of the episode. But it's nice to know that Clara was the guy who Clara was the girl that influenced the Doctor to say those things. And for true who so for someone who might have picked up on the fear makes a great companion. That quote was also used in a William Hartnell episode back in the 60s, so that's been recycled as well. But I think for the better, because that's just a nitpick. Um, I was watching someone else's video, and I picked up on that. I'm going to talk about Clara and Danny's relationship next. Um, I think we're losing. I think we're losing Clara. She was focused and dedicated to being at the Doctor's side throughout Series 7, as she was there most of the time. But now she's got this love interest. I think this could potentially be Jenna Coleman's last season. Um, Not that that's a bad thing. The show always needs fresh faces. Hence why Peter Capaldi is doing such a bang-up job. I think if we got a new companion, it wouldn't be the worst thing. If we kept Jenna Coleman, then that'd be great because she's a great actress. Um, But the dinner scene kind of didn't make sense. It did, but it didn't. You wouldn't fall out that many times during dinner. I know that's just not like in human nature. It was kind of forced, I think. And the fact that Clara in that scene was such a bitch to Danny, she knew from Into the Dalek that talking about the army and killing people was a touchy subject. And then she did that snide remark when the waiter asked if they wanted any water. She said, "Oh no, he'd probably dig for it." I thought that was just cruel. I thought that that was uncalled for, very unlike Jenna's character, and was unnecessary. But I think again it was all necessary to the plot because that's what it was. It was like the divorce in Asylum of the Daleks with Amy and Rory. They did that. Stephen Moffat did that so that Amy and Rory would get back together in the episode because it was required of it in the script, and I think that's just been repeated in this episode. They fell out, and she said things so that they'd inevitably get back together. And adding the inclusion of Rupert Pink and Orson Pink in the episode, I think Rupert Pink, fair enough, but Orson Pink was kind of throwing it in our faces that Clara and Danny are going to be together because he's a descendant of that family from years and years in the future. I did like the Rupert scenes. I thought they were the scary ones. The scene with the bed, where Clara's under Rupert's bed. I thought that was really great. Especially us not knowing what the creature is. There's been a lot of talk on the forums and on Facebook about whether there's actually something in the room or whether it's just imagination and just fear. It's just fear, consciousness of fear. But you can clearly see that there's something there, and I believe that there is something there because you can clearly see it. And if you couldn't see it, like with the thing at the TARDIS at the start, you couldn't see it, so it's debatable whether it's a mental thing or not. But you can clearly see that there's something under that bedspread. So but I think it not being able to talk and it just being there, and you can sense that easing closer and closer to them. That bit where the hairs stand up on the back of Rupert's head, that was beautifully shot. I thought that looked great. Production value in Doctor Who is getting better and better every week in my book. Um, the the production's just, it's aesthetically pleasing to watch. Um, it is getting better and better every week. The spaceship, Orson's spaceship with the door thing, that was a bit of a rip off from Midnight. But again, something was in that room with the Doctor. Absolutely, something was there. He opened that door, and I know it was the air pressure or whatever that causing him to hang on for his dear life, but there was definitely something in that room with him. It was hinted at when Clara was like, "No, no, no, not now," and she's banging the TV screen. I think Clara's being overused in the series. Um, Again, the episode again was mostly all about Clara and Clara's relationship with Danny, and Clara going. It was a Clara's timeline. Clara going to Gallifrey, which again I'm not sure was written. I mean, I know the episode was written after the Day of the Doctor, but I don't know whether it was in Stephen Moffat's mind or whether he meant to contradict himself or what. But that was a complete contradiction. But that scene where where she's talking to the young Cardinal, the young Doctor in his bed. That was very good. But the thing I did like about that scene is when she grabbed his ankle when he was getting off the bed, because the whole episode's been talking about that dream everyone has where someone grabs you from under your bed, and I liked the idea that it could potentially be any time traveler under your bed grabbing your leg. I like that idea. I thought that was good. There was some good things about it, some negative things. It's like two different episodes. You watch the first half an hour and it's one thing, and then you watch the last 15 minutes and it's like Stephen Moffat's been writing a different episode the whole time. I think there was no balance of the two. If they could have potentially made that something better. They could have played on the fear thing more and had the concept of you being in a room talking to someone them and then you not being in the room by yourself. I thought if they'd have played on that concept more, that episode could have been terrifying, like classic Moffat, like Empty Child Moffat, like Girl in the Fireplace Moffat. Girl in the Fireplace was another episode that was sort of ripped off. In fact, he ripped lines and themes from that episode. He's talking Renette in Girl of the Fireplace. She's like, when she's getting confronted by the clockwork androids at the end of the episode, when she's on her knees and she's like, I do not fear you. I do not fear death. I do not fear you. You are merely the nightmare of my childhood, the monster under my bed. I think that's something which Moffat has ripped off and reused. It's just reusing all these old ideas, and I think you don't need it. Doctor Who is this this becoming this fresh thing every year, and we've got a fresh new Doctor. I'm going to talk about Capaldi in a minute, his performance, because I thought he was amazing in this episode, more so than any of the other episodes. He's really coming to his own. Capaldi is some of his speeches, the speech that he gives to Rupert in the room when he's talking about fear, making a companion of us all. That speech, Stephen Moffat did a good job with writing that speech. That speech was amazing, and the speech of the TARDIS at the beginning, I that the opening sequence to me was just winner. When we could see him looking through the binoculars at the hunted thing, and then he was underwater. I thought that was, the TARDIS being underwater, I thought was just genius. Like why it would sink, or why it wouldn't float or something. But I thought that was great. That monologue at the beginning though, that was like spine tingling stuff. That certainly got me, and that's what made me so excited about the rest of the episode until the very end, and then it sort of fell flat on its face. We know that Danny Pink's going to become a major companion. Samuel Anderson himself has said in interviews that he's the companion of the companion, so if he does end up going into the TARDIS, it won't be without Clara's help, or I don't think if Jenna Coleman did leave, I don't think Samuel Anderson would stay on as a companion. But I do think that the Doctor talking to the young Rupert, trying to talk him into like trying to change his thinking, might have made an impact on why Danny is not in the army anymore. I'm sure there's more to his character than we've not seen yet. Another thing that I quite liked was the theme of the soldier, the little toy soldier that Clara takes from Rupert's room, the leader, Dan the soldier man. I'm looking at my hand, thinking I've got a soldier in my hand, but I really don't. But the fact that she gives the same thing to the Doctor, so that was another thing that got me, because why didn't the Doctor recognise it if it's been in his possession all this time? I mean, he would have had it as a child, so he would have remembered it. Surely, I'm sure he would have remembered a toy soldier that was exactly the same. Orson's character, I didn't really understand. Like, I know he was a time traveller from the future, and why they had to go back to the end of the universe, like they have done like 3 or 4 times since the series was revived. He could have gone anywhere in time and space, but the fact that it was the end of the universe again, I kind of thought, not such a good idea. But no, the episode wasn't terrible. It's not one of the best. I preferred Into the Dalek. I'm gonna give this episode 7. No, 6.5 to 7 out of 10. There was room for improvement. I was disappointed on watching it a second time. It wasn't as bad. There is moments where that are generally scary and made me jump. So for that reason, that's why it's getting a 6.5. But thank you for watching the video. Leave a comment, subscribe, like the video, and I'll be back next week to talk about Time Heist, which looks actually really quite fun. It looks different. We've got Keeley Hawes as Miss Delphox. She looks quite villainous, and this weird creature thing that has weird antennae that looks a bit like the Minotaur from the God Complex, but with just the weird antennae thingy. That looks good as well. And a shapeshifter who transforms into Clara at some point. So I think, yeah, I'm quite excited for this one. Another Stephen Moffat co-writing with Steve Thompson, who's not been one of the best Doctor Who writers, but I think in terms of the thing, it doesn't look a terrible episode, so I'm actually quite looking forward to this one. But as I said, I will see you next week. Goodbye.